The great council chamber stretched wide and tall, filled with beings from 47 different worlds. Some had scales, others had fur, and some were made of what looked like living crystal. They all sat in their special seats, designed for their different bodies. In the center of this massive room stood one human, alone. Ambassador Dae-hyun wore his dark blue uniform with Earth's symbol on the chest. He stood straight and calm, even though thousands of alien eyes watched him with anger and suspicion. The lighting in the chamber cast strange shadows across his face. But his expression never changed. He had expected this day would come. Above him, on the highest platform, sat Council Speaker Vixthar. The Praelan leader was nearly 3 meters tall, and made entirely of crystal that glowed with inner light. When Vixthar moved, his body made soft chiming sounds. He raised one crystalline hand, and the chamber fell completely silent. "We gather today for a matter of great importance," Vixthar announced. His voice echoed through the chamber like bells ringing. "The species known as humanity has become a problem for galactic peace and stability." Dae-hyun listened without reaction. He had read the charges before arriving. He knew what was coming. Vixthar continued, reading from a floating display that only he could see. 3 incidents prove that humans are too unpredictable to operate freely in civilized space. First, the Meridian trade dispute. Human negotiator Hyun-woo somehow convinced the Velkans to accept trade terms that their own experts said were impossible. The Velkans are known across the galaxy for never changing their position, yet one human made them agree to completely new terms in just 6 hours. A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. Some nodded their various heads. Others made sounds of agreement in languages Dae-hyun didn't understand. Second, Vixthar said, his crystal body brightening with emphasis, the Frontier Rescue. Captain G1 violated 17 different protocols, ignored direct orders from this council, and risked a diplomatic incident to save a Threxian colony from a natural disaster. While the Threxians were grateful, the captain's actions were reckless and unpredictable. Dae-hyun allowed himself a small smile. G1 had saved 3,000 lives that day. If that was a crime, humanity would gladly be guilty. Third, and most concerning, Vixthar's voice grew harder. The defense of Station Kepler. Commander Taeyang defeated a pirate fleet using tactics that our best military analysts called strategically insane. He put his own ship in danger at least 12 times. By all calculations, his approach should have failed. Instead, he won a complete victory with 0 casualties, the crystal being leaned forward. These incidents show a pattern. Humans do not follow predictable behavior. They ignore established wisdom. They take risks that no rational species would consider. This makes them dangerous, not because they are evil, but because we cannot predict what they will do next. Other council members began to speak, adding their own complaints. A Velkan representative talked about how human traders kept finding loopholes in commercial regulations. A Threxian military officer admitted that human tactical doctrine made no sense to their war computers. A Quellan scientist complained that human researchers kept achieving results that violated accepted scientific theories, except the results were real and reproducible. Finally, Vixthar raised his hand again for silence. Therefore, this council formally declares that humanity is too unpredictable for unrestricted operation in galactic space. We demand that Earth conform to established patterns of behavior. We demand predictability. We demand that humans stop being so human. The chamber erupted in sounds of approval from most species. A few remained silent, particularly the Threxians, remembering who had saved their people. Vixthar turned his glowing eyes to Dae-hyun. "Ambassador, you may respond to these charges." Every being in the chamber expected anger. They expected defiance. They expected long arguments about freedom and rights. Humans were unpredictable. After all, Dae-hyun walked slowly to the speaking platform. He looked around the chamber, meeting eyes and optical sensors and stranger sense organs. Then, he spoke in a calm, quiet voice. The Galactic Council has expressed concern about human unpredictability. We have listened to these concerns. Earth acknowledges that our actions have caused confusion and worry among the established powers. He paused, his face showing no emotion. Therefore, Earth will comply with your request. We will work to restrict our unpredictable nature. Silence fell over the chamber like a heavy blanket. This was not the response anyone expected. Vixthar's crystalline features couldn't show surprise, but his body's glow flickered uncertainly. You agree? The council speaker asked. We agree that predictability is important for galactic stability, Dae-hyun replied smoothly. Earth will take immediate steps to address your concerns. We will be more predictable. You have my word. The council members looked at each other in confusion. Some whispered to their aides. Others checked their translation devices, wondering if they had misunderstood. The Velkan representative actually stood up, as if to object, then sat back down slowly. Dae-hyun bowed slightly. If there is nothing else, I will return to Earth to begin implementing these changes. Vixthar recovered his composure. Very well. This council will monitor human activities closely. We expect to see significant changes in behavior within 6 months. You are dismissed. Dae-hyun bowed again and walked out of the chamber. His footsteps echoed in the confused silence. Behind him, the council members began talking all at once, trying to understand what had just happened. They had expected a fight. This calm acceptance was itself unpredictable. The transport ship back to Earth was small but comfortable. Dae-hyun sat in the command chair, looking out at the stars streaming past. His face finally showed emotion. A slight smile. He pressed a button on his chair's arm. A holographic display appeared, showing the face of Admiral Sang-hoon. The admiral was an older man with gray hair and a face that had seen many battles. He sat in his office at Fleet Command on Earth's moon. Ambassador, Sang-hoon greeted him. How did the council take the news? Exactly as predicted, Dae-hyun replied. They declared us too unpredictable. They demanded we become more predictable and conform to their standards. Sang-hoon's weathered face broke into a wide grin. And you agreed? Completely agreed. Told them we would work immediately to restrict our unpredictable nature. Dae-hyun's smile matched the admiral's. They seemed confused by that. Dae-hyun's. I bet they did. Sang-hoon leaned back in his chair. Did you send the authorization codes? I transmitted them the moment I left the chamber. Project Nightingale should be receiving them right about now. The admiral nodded with satisfaction. 3 years of planning. 3 years of pretending to be satisfied with our current technology. 3 years of letting them think they understood us. He leaned forward, his eyes bright. Time to show them what human unpredictability really means. They think unpredictable means random, Dae-hyun said quietly. They think we're like children who don't follow the rules because we don't understand them, and they're about to learn the truth, Sang-hoon finished. We don't follow their rules because we've outgrown them. Begin Phase Nightingale. Authorization code, Sierra Hotel 7 Tango. Confirmed, Dae-hyun said. Admiral, do you think they'll understand what we're doing before it's too late? Sang-hoon thought for a moment. Probably not. They've spent so long being predictable that they've forgotten how to innovate. They see patterns because patterns are safe. They see rules because rules are comfortable. He smiled again. But this time, it was harder, like steel. They're about to remember that the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't chaos. It's someone who knows exactly what they're doing and doesn't care about your rules. The transmission ended. Dae-hyun looked back out at the stars. Somewhere ahead, hidden in the darkness of space, Earth waited. And on Earth's moon, in the massive construction bays of the lunar shipyards, Something new was about to wake up. In the Tycho crater facility, young engineer Mi-sun sat at her workstation, reviewing the same power flow equations she had been studying for 6 months. The work was boring, but necessary. Someone had to maintain the old ships while the brilliant minds worked on the interesting projects. Her computer chimed. New orders had arrived. She opened them, expecting another routine maintenance schedule. The screen flashed red. Priority Alpha clearance required. Project Nightingale was going active. Mi-sun's hands shook as she entered her authorization codes. The screen cleared, showing schematics she had never seen before. Ship designs that looked similar to human vessels on the outside, but were completely different inside. Power systems that shouldn't be possible. Engine configurations that violated everything she had learned in engineering school. Except they didn't violate physics. They just understood physics in ways no one else had bothered to explore. She pulled up the full project scope and her eyes went wide. This wasn't one ship. This was an entire fleet. A complete revolution in human naval architecture. And according to the timeline, the first vessel was supposed to launch in just 8 months. If we can actually build this, she whispered to her empty office, everything changes. Her computer chimed again. A message from Admiral Sang-hoon himself, sent to every member of the Nightingale team. The galaxy has declared us too unpredictable. They think they're putting us in our place. They think they're making us smaller, more manageable, more like everyone else. They're wrong. Show them what humanity can do when we stop trying to fit into their boxes. Show them what predictable really means when you're 3 steps ahead. Make them understand that they didn't cage us. They freed us. Begin construction. The clock is ticking. Mi-sun read the message 3 times. Then she stood up, grabbed her jacket, and headed for the main construction bay. She had 8 months to help build something impossible. The galaxy wanted humanity to be predictable. They were about to get exactly what they asked for. Just not in any way they could imagine. 3 months had passed since the declaration, and the galaxy was breathing easier. Human merchant ships now followed every trade regulation perfectly. Human patrol vessels maintained predictable routes that never varied by more than a few degrees. Human diplomats at various embassies had become almost boring, following protocol manuals to the letter and never causing surprises. On the Praelon homeworld, Council Speaker Vixthar stood in his private chamber, watching reports from across the galaxy. Every indicator showed the same thing. Humanity was complying. They were being predictable. They were acting like civilized species were supposed to act. It seems we were successful, his aide commented. The humans have learned their lesson. Vixthar's crystalline body pulsed with satisfaction. Indeed. It simply required a firm hand. All species must learn that chaos has no place in an ordered galaxy. Even humanity can be taught to follow the rules. He sent a message to the Galactic Council, praising the successful civilizing of Earth. Other council members responded with approval. The Velkans were particularly pleased. The Threxians remained silent, but that was expected. They had always been too sympathetic to humanity. None of them were looking in the right direction. On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, the massive engineering complex hummed with activity day and night. The facility had been built into the moon itself, hidden from casual observation by the same ice and rock that had been there for billions of years. Inside, 5,000 engineers worked in shifts that never stopped. Mi-sun had not seen the sun in weeks. She didn't miss it. The work was too important, too exciting, too revolutionary. She stood in Construction Bay 7, looking up at the skeleton of what would become humanity's newest ship. The framework stretched 200 meters above her head, a lattice of metal and composite materials that sparkled under the work lights. "It's beautiful," said a voice behind her. She turned to see Chief Engineer Jae-hyun, her mentor and the man who had designed half of the innovations they were building. He was older, nearly 60, with gray hair and permanent dark circles under his eyes. He had been working on Project Nightingale for 5 years, long before most people knew it existed. "Will it actually work?" Mi-sun asked. She had reviewed the designs 100 times, but some part of her still couldn't believe what they were attempting. Jae-hyun smiled. Physics says yes. Every simulation says yes. The prototype components all tested perfectly. He gestured at the growing ship. After him, offer the problem. The only question was whether we could build it before someone noticed what we were doing. And the other species? They really don't suspect anything? Why would they? Jae-hyun said. They see what they expect to see. Our old ships following predictable patterns. Our diplomats being boring. Our merchants playing by their rules. He turned to look at her directly. They think predictable means weak. They think following rules means accepting their limitations. They're about to learn a very important lesson. What lesson? Mi-sun asked. That there's a difference between following someone else's rules and making your own rules that happen to not conflict with theirs. We never agreed to stop innovating. We never agreed to stop advancing. We only agreed to be more predictable. His smile grew wider. And these ships are perfectly predictable. They do exactly what they're designed to do. Every single time. It's just that what they're designed to do is beyond anything the galaxy has seen before. On the other side of the solar system, in Earth's capital city of Geneva, Ambassador Dae-hyun met with representatives from the Threxian government. The meeting was unofficial, held in a private room with no recording devices. The Threxian representative was named Corvin. He was a tall being, covered in dark blue scales, with 4 arms and large golden eyes. Unlike many of his species, Corvin worked in intelligence rather than military service. He had been the one to coordinate the rescue when Captain G1 had saved the Threxian colony. My government is concerned, Corvin said in his clicking, hissing language. The translation device on the table converted his words to English. The Praelons and Velkans are forming a deeper alliance. They're using your supposed compliance as a model for how to handle other independent species. Dae-hyun leaned forward. Tell me more. They're calling it the Stability Doctrine. The basic idea is that any species showing unpredictable behavior can be censured by the Council, then forced to comply with established patterns. You were the test case. Since you complied, they believe the system works. Corvin's scales darkened with what his species showed as concern. End it. They're already preparing similar charges against the Quellan Unity and the Tarsan Confederacy, trying to control everyone, Dae-hyun said quietly. Exactly. And if those species don't comply as meekly as Earth did, the Praelon-Velkan alliance is prepared to enforce compliance with economic sanctions or even military pressure. Corvin looked directly at the human. My people want you to know this. We haven't forgotten what humanity did for us. We won't stand with the Praelons if they move against you, even if it costs you. Even then. Corvin's 4 arms moved in a gesture of certainty. But we hope it won't come to that. Tell me, Ambassador, did Earth really give up? Did humanity truly accept being controlled? Dae-hyun smiled. What do you think? Corvin made a sound like laughter. I think humans are still unpredictable. I think you agreed to their terms while doing exactly what you planned to do all along. I think the Praelons are looking at the wrong things. What makes you say that? Because I've been watching your ship construction. Your public shipyards are producing vessels exactly like your current fleet. Nice, predictable, conventional ships. Corvin's eyes seemed to glow brighter. But your resource consumption doesn't match your production. Metals, composites, rare elements, all being shipped to Saturn. Either you're building a very large storage facility, or you're building something you don't want anyone to see. That's a serious accusation, Dae-hyun said with no emotion in his voice. It's an observation from a friend, Corvin replied. And a warning. Some Praelan intelligence officers are smarter than their leadership. They'll notice eventually. When they do, they'll move to stop you. Whatever you're planning, speed is essential. After Corvin left, Dae-hyun immediately contacted Admiral Sang-hoon. The Admiral appeared on the secure holographic display, and Dae-hyun repeated everything the Threxian had said. Sang-hoon was quiet for a moment, thinking, "How long until the first squadron is ready?" He finally asked. Dae-hyun pulled up the construction schedule. Original timeline said 8 months from project start. "We're 3 months in. Not soon enough. Contact Mi-sun. Tell her we need to accelerate." On Titan, Mi-sun received the message while she was reviewing power coupling designs for the new engine systems. She immediately called a meeting with all the senior engineers. "They want us to launch in 5 months instead of 8, she announced to the assembled team. The engineers looked at each other with concern. Some looked doubtful. 1 or 2 looked excited. Jae-hyun stood up. "Can we do it?" Mi-sun pulled up their progress reports. Construction Base 7 held the most advanced ship, the one they were calling Seoul's Defiance. It was 40% complete. The other bays held ships at various stages, from barely started to nearly finished. If we focus everything on completing Seoul's Defiance first, maybe, we'd have to pull resources from the other ships, delay their construction by months. 1 functional ship is better than 6 incomplete ones. Jae-hyun said firmly. "Do it. Focus everything on getting the Defiance operational. The other ships can wait. We have no make-speed." The engineers worked through the night, and the next night, and the night after that. Time became meaningless. Sleep happened in short bursts. Meals were eaten at workstations. Mi-sun watched her team push themselves beyond normal limits, driven by the knowledge that what they were building mattered. 2 months later, Seoul's Defiance sat in its construction bay, 95% complete. The ship was smaller than a traditional human cruiser, only 150 meters long, but it was packed with technology that didn't officially exist. Captain Yoon Seo arrived to take command with her crew of 60. She was a veteran officer, 40 years old, with short black hair and scars on her hands from an old battle. She had commanded conventional ships for 15 years. Now, she would be the first to command something entirely new. Mi-sun gave her the full tour, explaining each system. "The engines don't break physics," Mi-sun said, as they stood in the engine room. "They just understand physics better. Einstein said nothing can accelerate faster than light, and that's still true. But he also said that space itself can bend and stretch. We're not moving faster through space. We're reducing the amount of space we have to move through. And the other species never figured this out?" Yoon Seo asked. "They stopped trying. They found faster-than-light travel that worked well enough. So they standardized it, built their entire infrastructure around it, made it predictable and reliable." Mi-sun smiled. "We started from scratch and asked, what if there's a better way? How much better? In conventional combat, about 3 to 5 times faster response time. In emergency situations, possibly 10 times. Yoon Seo whistled softly. "That changes everything. That's the idea." The shakedown cruise was supposed to be simple. A run from Titan to Jupiter's orbit, testing all systems, then back again. Nothing fancy. No stress tests. Just making sure everything worked. They were halfway to Jupiter when the distress call came through. "Captain, I'm picking up a Threxian civilian transport under attack," reported Navigator Bo-Ra from her station. 4 pirate vessels. The transport is unarmed. Yoon Seo checked the distance. "How far?" 20 million kilometers. Standard response time would be 40 minutes. By then, the transport will be destroyed or captured. The captain looked at her tactical officer, Dong-min. "Is this ship ready for combat?" Dong-min checked his screens. "All weapons systems show green. Shields are operational. Engines are running perfectly." He looked up. "We've never tested combat maneuvers at speed. Then we test them now." Yoon Seo pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. Engineering. I need everything you can give me." In the engine room, Mi-sun heard the alert. She had stayed aboard for the shakedown cruise to monitor her systems. Now she would see if 5 months of almost no sleep had been worth it. "Ready when you are, Captain," she said into her comm. Full combat acceleration, Yunseo ordered. Get us there in 73 seconds. The Soul's Defiance moved. Space seemed to twist around the ship, and suddenly the stars were in different positions. The crew felt nothing. No crushing acceleration. No force pushing them into their seats. Just a slight sensation of movement, like riding a very fast elevator. On the view screen, the pirate ships came into view. 4 old warships, probably surplus from some minor conflict, attacking a helpless transport. They were in the middle of their attack, weapons firing, when something impossible appeared among them. What? One pirate captain managed to say before his ship's weapons went offline. The Soul's Defiance sat perfectly still in the middle of the pirate formation, having crossed 20 million kilometers in just over a minute. Its weapons fired with precise calculations, targeting engines and weapon systems but not life support or crew areas. 3 pirate ships went dark in seconds. The 4th pirate vessel's captain made a smart decision. He turned his ship and ran at maximum speed. Captain, should we pursue? Dongmin asked. Yunseo smiled slightly. No. Let him go. Let him tell the story. Let him tell everyone what he saw. Let the whole galaxy start wondering what just happened. The Threxian transport captain's voice came through, speaking in amazed tones. Unknown human vessel. This is Captain Relcon, of the transport Bright Waters. You just saved our lives. How did you get here so fast? We saw you on sensors, and then you were just here. Just lucky we were in the area, Yunseo replied calmly. Are you and your passengers safe? Yes. Thanks to you. But that ship, what you just did, that's not possible. With standard human engines. Must be a sensor error on your end. Safe travels, Captain. Yunseo ended the communication and looked at her crew. They were all staring at her, excitement and pride on their faces. Well, she said with a small smile, I think the test was successful. Take us back to Titan. Engineering. Start your reports. And someone send a message to Admiral Sang-hoon. Tell him Soul's Defiance is operational and ready for deployment. As they traveled back to Saturn, Mi-sun sat in engineering, looking at her readouts. Everything had worked perfectly. Better than perfectly. The ship had done exactly what it was designed to do. In 5 days, the galaxy would discover that humanity's quiet months were over. The predictable patterns would break, and the Praelons would finally understand what they had actually demanded when they told humans to be more predictable. Mi-sun smiled to herself in the dim engine room light. The real game was about to begin. The invitation arrived exactly 6 weeks after the declaration. It came on official Galactic Council channels, wrapped in diplomatic language and formal protocols. The message invited Earth to send representatives to the Centennial Trade Summit on Nexus Prime, the galaxy's largest commercial hub. Ambassador Dae-hyun read the invitation 3 times in his office on Earth. Each time, he saw the trap more clearly. His diplomatic aide, Hyo-jin, stood nearby, her face showing concern. It's obviously a setup, she said. The trade agreements they'll present are designed to push human commerce into secondary markets. If we attend, we give them legitimacy. If we refuse, they'll call it hostile and use it as an excuse for sanctions. Classic diplomatic trap, Dae-hyun agreed. Attend and lose, or refuse and lose worse. He smiled slowly. Which means we should definitely attend. Sir, they expect us to show up in our old ships, being predictable and neutered, just like we've been for the past 6 weeks. They expect us to quietly accept whatever terms they dictate. He turned to look out his window at Earth's blue sky. Let's give them something different to expect. He opened a communication channel to Admiral Sang-hoon on Luna. Admiral, we've been invited to a summit. I think it's time we showed the galaxy what we've been building. Sang-hoon's face appeared on the holographic display. The Soul's Defiance and her sister ships? Exactly. How many vessels do we have operational? 3 Nightingale-class cruisers are fully functional. Soul's Defiance, Busan's Pride, and Incheon's Light. We also have 2 older conventional ships We've kept in service. Perfect. Send the conventional ships out front, with the Nightingale ships following behind. Let them see the contrast. Let them see what they got used to. And then show them what we've become. The fleet assembled near Mars 3 days later. The 2 older ships, destroyers from Earth's conventional navy, took point positions. They were good ships, reliable and well-maintained, but they used standard galactic technology. Behind them, the 3 Nightingale-class cruisers held formation. To outside observers, they looked similar to other human ships, just slightly smaller and sleeker. Captain Yunseo commanded the Soul's Defiance from her bridge. Navigator Bo-Ra plotted their course to Nexus Prime, a journey that would take 8 days using standard faster-than-light travel. They could have made the journey in half that time using the Nightingale drives, but that would have revealed too much too soon. Maintain standard velocity, Yunseo ordered. Match the older ships exactly. We're supposed to be predictable, remember? Her weapons officer, Dong Min, smiled at that. The journey to Nexus Prime was calm and routine. They traveled along established trade routes, maintained precisely scheduled speeds, and sent all the expected communications at all the right times. Every hour, they transmitted their position and status to galactic navigation networks, just like regulations required. On the 3rd day, they passed a Praelon merchant convoy. The Praelon ships scanned the human fleet as they passed, which was normal. Yunseo watched the scan results on her displays. They're categorizing us as standard human military vessels, Bo-Ra reported. Low threat assessment. Good, Yunseo said. That's exactly what they should think. By the time they reached Nexus Prime, the station's orbital space was crowded with ships from across the galaxy. Nexus Prime was huge, a space station the size of a small moon, built over centuries by dozens of species. Millions of beings lived and worked there. It was the center of galactic commerce, and today it would host the most important trade summit in 50 years. The Praelon Empire had sent not just merchants, but a full battle squadron. 6 heavy cruisers, twice the size of human ships, positioned prominently near the station's primary docking hub. Their crystalline hulls reflected the light from Nexus Prime's sun, a deliberate display of power. They're showing off, Dongmin muttered from his station. Let them, Yunseo replied. We're here for diplomacy. The human fleet began its docking approach, following all standard procedures. The older destroyers moved toward their assigned berths. The Nightingale ships followed in formation, preparing to dock at secondary positions. On the station's command deck, Station Master Quindal watched the human fleet with his 4 eyes. He was a Vortan, a species known for bureaucratic efficiency and attention to detail. Next to him stood his tactical officer, a Threxian named Velcor. The human fleet is proceeding normally, Velcor reported. All standard protocols followed. Good, Quindal said. Perhaps the Praelons were right. Perhaps humans have finally learned to follow civilized procedures. That's when everything changed. A Velcan military vessel, positioned near the docking zones, suddenly broke formation. Its engines flared bright, pushing it onto a new trajectory. Collision alarms began shrieking across multiple frequencies. Velcan ship Darkened Sun is off course, a controller shouted. They're on collision trajectory with human vessel Busan's Watch. On the Soul's Defiance bridge, alarms sounded instantly. Bo-Ra's hands flew across her controls, pulling up trajectory data. Captain, the Velcan ship is going to hit Busan's Watch in 45 seconds. The Busan can't maneuver clear in time. Yunseo studied the display. The Velcan ship's trajectory was too perfect. Too precise. This wasn't an accident. Tactical analysis. Dongmin ran the numbers. If Busan's Watch gets hit, it won't be destroyed, but it'll be damaged and unable to participate in the summit. Perfect way to embarrass us. The Velcans will claim navigational malfunction, pay some compensation, and we look weak. Distance to intercept, 27,000 kilometers. Standard acceleration. We can't reach them in time. Yunseo looked at her crew. This was the moment. They could let it happen, maintain their cover, stay predictable, or they could show the galaxy what humanity had really been building. All power to engines, she ordered. Navigation, plot intercept course, engineering, give me everything. In the engine room, Mi-sun was already working. Ready, Captain. Full Nightingale acceleration on your mark. All. Mark, Yunseo said calmly. The Soul's defiance moved. On the station's command deck, Quindal's 4 eyes all widened at once. One moment, the human ship Soul's defiance was 27,000 kilometers away. The next moment, it was directly between the out-of-control Velkan vessel and the human destroyer. That's impossible, Velkor whispered. His tactical computer was showing error messages, claiming the human ship had just accelerated at over 700 gravities. Nothing could survive that. The crew should be paced on the walls, but there it was. Perfectly positioned, extending tractor beams that caught the Velkan ship and smoothly arrested its momentum. No collision, no damage. Just one human ship appearing in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. Captain Yunseo's voice came across open channels, calm and professional. Velkan vessel, darkened sun. This is Soul's defiance. We have stabilized your trajectory. Your navigational systems appear to have malfunctioned. We recommend you run a full diagnostic before attempting further maneuvers. You're welcome. Silence crashed across every communication channel. Thousands of beings on hundreds of ships tried to process what they had just seen. On the Velkan ship, Captain Krelvan stared at his screens in shock. His ship hadn't malfunctioned. He had been ordered to create an incident, to embarrass the humans. Except now the humans had just saved his ship and made him look incompetent in front of the entire galaxy. How did they do that? His navigator asked in a shaking voice. Krelvan had no answer. In the Praelan flagship Crystalline Authority, the commanding officer immediately ordered a full analysis. His tactical computers ran the data 3 times, each time returning the same impossible results. The human ship had accelerated at speeds that should have killed its crew. It had crossed distance that should have taken minutes in just seconds, and it had done so with such precision that it caught another ship without damaging anything. This changes everything, the Praelan commander said quietly. On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Daehyun was already in the summit hall when news of the incident reached him. He watched the holographic replay with apparent calm, though inside he was smiling. Perfect. Better than anything they could have planned. The summit hall was enormous, designed to hold representatives from hundreds of species. Curved seating rose in tiers around a central speaking floor. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing agendas and proposals. The room smelled of 100 different atmospheres, filtered and mixed to be breathable for everyone. The Praelan Trade Minister, a being named Ixthor, stood to address the assembly. He was younger than Council Speaker Vixthar, but equally arrogant. Before we begin formal proceedings, perhaps we should discuss safety protocols. The recent incident with the Velkan vessel shows that even routine docking procedures can be dangerous. He looked directly at Daehyun, a smirk on his crystalline features. Perhaps the human delegation would like to explain how their vessel performed such an unusual maneuver? Daehyun stood slowly. He looked around the hall, meeting eyes and optical sensors. Trade Minister Ixthor raises an excellent point about safety. Perhaps we should indeed discuss safety protocols. Specifically, the protocols that allowed a Velkan military vessel to experience such a catastrophic navigational failure in controlled orbital space. He paused, letting the words sink in. Quite unpredictable, wouldn't you say? Several species representatives made sounds of approval. The Velkan delegation looked uncomfortable. The Praelan's crystalline faces couldn't show emotion, but their body language showed anger. Nevertheless, Daehyun continued, Earth is happy to discuss our vessel's capabilities. We've been working on improvements to our ships, as the Council requested. You asked us to be more predictable. These new ships are perfectly predictable. They do exactly what they're designed to do. Every single time. And what are they designed to do? Ixthor demanded. To protect human interests and assist other species in need, Daehyun replied smoothly. As we just demonstrated. Quote, the first day of the summit ended in confusion. The proposed trade agreements sat on every delegate's console, but no one wanted to discuss them. Everyone wanted to talk about the human ship that had moved impossibly fast. During the break, 7 different species ambassadors quietly requested private meetings with Daehyun. The first to arrive was Corven, now serving as the Threxian attaché. That was quite a display, Corven said, his scales rippling with what his species showed as amusement. Whatever technology allows your ships to move like that would revolutionize warfare, trade, and exploration. Technology we developed while being predictable and following all regulations, Daehyun pointed out. Of course. Corvin's eyes glowed. My government would be very interested in discussing technology sharing. We haven't forgotten that your people saved our colony. We haven't forgotten who our real friends are. Before we discuss that, Daehyun said seriously, tell me what you know about the Praelan Velkan plans. The real plans. Not just the trade agreements. Corvin's expression became grave. They're calling it the Stability Doctrine. The trade agreements are just the first move. They plan to use humanity's supposed compliance as a model. Any species that shows independence or unpredictability will be censured, then forced to comply. If they don't comply willingly, economic sanctions follow. If sanctions don't work, military pressure. They're trying to control the entire galaxy, using you as the example. If they can successfully box in humanity, other species will fall in line, rather than face the same treatment. Corven leaned forward. That's why your demonstration was so important. You showed them that you haven't been contained. You've been preparing. Oh. After Corven left, Daehyun sent an encrypted message to Admiral Sang-hoon. They're planning more than we thought. We need the rest of the fleet. Sang-hoon's reply came instantly. Already on the way. 16 ships departed Luna yesterday. They'll arrive in 4 days. Rube. Daehyun smiled. 4 days. The summit was scheduled to last 2 weeks. The Praelons thought they had time to maneuver, to apply pressure, to force the smaller species into accepting their terms. They were about to learn that humans didn't just innovate in technology, they innovated in strategy too. And the most important strategy was timing. 4 days until the galaxy saw what human predictability really meant. The second day of the summit began with tension thick enough to cut. Every species present knew something had changed. The human ship's impossible maneuver dominated private conversations in a dozen languages. Delegates whispered theories, shared sensor data, and tried to understand what they had witnessed. Ambassador Daehyun sat in the human delegation section, reviewing proposals on his data tablet. He appeared calm and focused, as if nothing unusual had happened. This drove the other delegations crazy. They wanted explanations, wanted to understand, wanted to know how humanity had hidden such advanced technology. The Praelan delegation entered the hall with obvious anger. Trade Minister Ixthor's crystalline body glowed brighter than usual, a sign of emotion his species couldn't fully control. He went straight to the speaking floor without waiting for formal proceedings to begin. This summit exists to establish fair trade frameworks, Ixthor announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. However, certain revelations about hidden military capabilities raise serious questions. How can we negotiate in good faith when one party has concealed the true nature of their technological advancement? Several species murmured agreement. Others remained silent, watching carefully. Daehyun stood slowly. Trade Minister, Earth has concealed nothing. We were asked to be more predictable. We complied. We developed new technologies, yes, but we broke no laws, violated no treaties, and ignored no regulations. Everything we built was created in our own space, using our own resources, following every rule that applies to us. Yet you hid these developments from the Council, Ixthor shot back. Did we? Or did the Council simply not ask? There's a difference between hiding something and not volunteering information that wasn't requested. Dae-hyun looked around the chamber. Earth has committed no crimes. We simply chose to invest in innovation rather than stagnation. The debate continued for hours, going nowhere. The Praelons wanted to make humanity look threatening. The smaller species were caught between fear of human advancement and hope that someone could finally challenge Praelan dominance. No actual trade discussions happened. By the third day, the stalemate continued. That's when Admiral Sang-hoon's message reached Dae-hyun. Fleet arrives in 2 hours. Be ready. Dae-hyun excused himself from the summit, citing the need to review documents. In truth, he went to the observation deck to watch. 16 ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at Nexus Prime's outer marker. But these weren't like the careful, predictable arrival of the first human fleet. These ships moved with purpose and precision that looked almost like a dance. They accelerated in patterns that made tactical computers flag errors, shifted positions with speed that shouldn't be possible, and maintained formations that no standard doctrine recognized. On Nexus Prime's command deck, Station Master Quindal watched with all 4 eyes wide. What are they doing? His tactical officer Velcor ran analysis after analysis. They're not following any known tactical formation. The Portensiperk, the spacing is wrong. The acceleration patterns violate standard procedures, and the energy signatures show they're using far less power than necessary for those speeds. 1. Are they a threat? Unknown. They're not targeting anything. They're just demonstrating. That was exactly right. The 16 human ships weren't threatening anyone. They were simply showing what they could do. Every military officer on every ship in orbit watched with growing understanding. Humanity hadn't just built new engines. They had rewritten the entire book on naval tactics. Fleet Captain Insu commanded the new arrivals from the Incheon's Pride. He was a younger officer, only 35, but he had trained specifically for these new ships. He sent a simple message on open channels. Earth Federation reinforcements. Arriving to ensure safe completion of diplomatic proceedings. The message was polite and professional. The demonstration was anything but subtle. Council Speaker Vix Thar, who had traveled to Nexus Prime for the summit, immediately called an emergency session. Every delegate was summoned to a secure conference room, away from the main summit hall. Vix Thar's crystalline body practically vibrated with fury. This is exactly the unpredictable behavior we sought to curtail. Humanity has militarized in secret, developed weapons in violation of the spirit of our agreement, and now threatens the entire summit with a show of force. Admiral Sang-hoon had arrived with the fleet. He now stood beside Dae-hyun, his weathered face showing no emotion. Council Speaker, we have violated no agreements. You asked us to be predictable. We have become predictable. These ships perform exactly as designed. Our tactics follow precise doctrine, and our actions are calculated and consistent. You call this predictable? Ixthor demanded. Absolutely. We're predictable at a level the galaxy hasn't seen before. That's not our fault. That's yours. Sang-hoon's voice remained level and calm. You became comfortable with slow innovation. You standardized technologies and stopped asking if there were better ways. You made predictable mean stagnant. We made predictable mean reliable excellence. 2. Vix Thar leaned forward. You are threatening galactic stability. No. Dae-hyun interjected. We're threatening your control. There's a difference. You and the Velkans plan to use this summit to establish a new order. With you at the top, you plan to use humanity as an example of a controlled species. Then, you plan to apply the same control to others. Shocked silence filled the room. The smaller species delegations looked at each other in alarm. The Velkans shifted uncomfortably. The Praelon's glow intensified. "How dare you accuse us of such conspiracy?" Ixthor started. "Because it's true," said a new voice. Corvan the Threxian stepped forward. "My government has intelligence confirming the stability doctrine. We've seen the plans for progressive containment of independent species. We know that humanity was the test case." Other species began talking all at once. Accusations flew. Denials were shouted. The emergency session dissolved into chaos. Dae-hyun raised his hand, and surprisingly, the room quieted. He activated a holographic display, showing a new framework. Earth proposes a revised trade agreement, one that protects sovereignty for all species while creating mutual defense pacts. Any attack on one signatory is treated as an attack on all. Any economic sanctions against one are met by all. "You're proposing a rival power bloc," Vixthar said coldly. "No, we're proposing a federation of equals. And here's the interesting part." Dae-hyun smiled. "We're offering limited technology sharing. Any species that signs this agreement gets access to Earth's civilian applications of our new propulsion systems. Faster trade ships, better exploration vessels, improved emergency response capabilities." The room erupted again, but this time with different energy. The smaller species delegations leaned forward, interested. Even some of the mid-tier powers looked intrigued. "There must be conditions," said a Quellan representative suspiciously. "Of course. Signatories must maintain defensive pacts with each other. They must respect each other's sovereignty. They must not use the technology for aggressive expansion, and they must contribute to collective security." Dae-hyun looked directly at Vixthar. "Everything the current council claims to do, but actually enforced fairly." Dae-hyun, this is outrageous," Ixthor stated. "You're trying to split the galaxy." "We're trying to give everyone a choice," Sang-hoon corrected. "Join a federation of equals, or remain in a system where two powers make all the decisions. That's not splitting the galaxy. That's giving it freedom." The session ended with no resolution. But the damage to Praelan plans was done. Delegates returned to their ships and quarters, thinking hard about the choice they now faced. The fourth day saw unprecedented private negotiations. Small and medium species ambassadors came to the human delegation in steady streams. Each wanted to know more about the offer, about the technology, about the terms. The Threxians signed first. No surprise there. Then came the Quellans, tired of being threatened with sanctions for their independent research. Then the Tarsans, grateful someone finally offered an alternative to Praelan dominance. By the fifth day, 12 species had signed the framework agreement. By the sixth day, it was 20. The summit that was supposed to formalize Praelan control was instead creating a new power structure in the galaxy. Then came the surprise. Ambassador Krelvan of the Velkans requested a private meeting with Dae-hyun. The human ambassador agreed, curious about what the Praelan's main ally wanted. Krelvan was a tall being with gray skin and 6 thin arms. He looked tired. "Our alliance with the Praelans was built on fear," he said without preamble. "They promised us protection from chaos, from unpredictable threats. They pointed to you as the example of what would happen if we didn't accept their leadership. And now?" Dae-hyun asked. "Now I see that unpredictability isn't chaos. It's innovation. It's growth. It's refusing to be stagnant." Krelvan's 6 arms moved in a gesture of decision. "My government has authorized me to withdraw from the Praelan alliance and sign your framework agreement." Dae-hyun kept his expression neutral. But inside he was stunned. "That's a significant decision. Are you certain?" "Absolutely. We're tired of being junior partners in someone else's empire. Your offer treats us as equals. Your technology sharing doesn't come with political control attached. You're offering what the Praelans only pretended to provide." The Velkan signature on the agreement sent shockwaves through the summit. The Praelan's primary ally had switched sides. The carefully constructed power structure was collapsing. Vixthar and Ixthor made one last attempt on the 7th day. They called for a vote to invalidate the new agreements, claiming they violated council authority. But the vote failed. Too many species had already committed to the new framework. The Praelan delegation walked out of the summit, their crystalline bodies glowing with barely controlled fury. But they walked out, alone. Even their traditional supporters had recognized which way the galaxy was turning. That evening, Captain Yunseo sat in the Soul's Defiance, reviewing the day's events with her crew. "We did it," Navigator Bo-Ra said with wonder. "We actually changed everything. We gave them a choice," Yunseo corrected. "They chose to change everything themselves. That's the difference between us and the Praelons. We don't force. We offer. Weapons." Officer Dongmin smiled. "Think they'll try something military? Now that they've lost politically? Maybe. But if they do, they'll face 33 species united, instead of one isolated humanity. Those odds don't favor them." On the station, Dae-hyun and Sang-hoon shared a quiet drink in the human delegation quarters. "Phase 1 complete," the Admiral said. "Phase 1, Dae-hyun agreed. "Now comes the hard part. Actually building the Federation we promised, making it work, showing that cooperation between equals is stronger than control from above." Sang-hoon raised his glass. "To unpredictability." Dae-hyun smiled and touched his glass to the Admiral's. "To unpredictability. May the galaxy never know what we'll do next, except that it will be exactly what we said we'd do." Outside, the combined fleet of 33 species held formation around Nexus Prime. Human ships with their impossible speed flew alongside Threxian cruisers, Velkan defenders, Quellan research vessels, and ships from dozens of other worlds. Different designs, different technologies, different cultures, united by choice rather than force. The galaxy had declared humanity too unpredictable. Earth had smiled and upgraded its ships. And now the entire galaxy was upgrading with them. 6 months had passed since the summit at Nexus Prime. The galaxy looked different now. Not in visible ways, but in the patterns of power and alliance that governed everything. The Federation of Sovereign Species, as it was formally called, now included 41 members. The old Galactic Council still existed, but its influence had faded like a forgotten song. Captain Yunseo stood on the bridge of the Soul's Defiance, watching her tactical display. Today's patrol included 4 ships. 2 were human, the Soul's Defiance and its sister ship, Gwangju's Hope. The third was a Threxian heavy cruiser named Stalwart Dawn. The fourth was a Velkan defender called Peaceful Resolution. It was messy. The different species had different communication protocols, different tactical doctrines, and different ways of thinking about combat and defense. Coordinating between them required patience and creativity. It was also revolutionary. "Stalwart Dawn is drifting 0.3 degrees off formation," reported Navigator Bo-Ra. "Send them a correction," Yunseo ordered. "Polite reminder, not a command." Bo-Ra sent the message. A moment later, the Threxian ship adjusted. Their captain, Velkor, sent back a message. "Apologies. Soul's Defiance. Still adjusting to combined operations. Our navigational computers prefer wider spacing." "No problem, Stalwart Dawn. Take your time. We're all learning." That was the truth. They were all learning. Learning to work together. Learning to trust each other. Learning that different approaches could complement rather than conflict. On Earth's moon, at the new Federation Technology Center, engineer Mi-sun worked with scientists from 14 different species. The facility had been built specifically for collaborative research, with sections designed for different atmospheric requirements and different types of beings. Today, Mi-sun was working with a Quellan physicist named Zendar, trying to adapt the Nightingale propulsion system for ships with different mass distributions. The Quellans built their ships long and thin, unlike the more compact human designs. The engines needed modifications to work efficiently. The problem is harmonic resonance, Zendar explained, his tentacles moving across a holographic display. Our hull composition creates feedback that human hulls don't experience. Mi-sun studied the data. What if we offset the field generators? Move them asymmetrically along the spine. That violates the standard configuration. The standard human configuration. But you're not human. Your ships shouldn't use our exact setup. They should use what works for you. 11. Zendar paused, his species equivalent of surprise. You're suggesting we modify your technology, rather than adapt our designs to match it? Of course. The technology isn't sacred. It's a tool. If the tool doesn't fit your hand, change the tool. Mi-sun pulled up new schematics. Let's try this configuration. It's not how we'd build it, but it might be perfect for you. They worked through the night, human and Quellan side by side, creating something neither could have designed alone. When they finished testing the new configuration, it worked better than either the original human design or the standard Quellan approach. We should publish this, Zendar said excitedly. Show the entire Federation that hybrid designs work, Mi-sun smiled. Already planning to. That's the whole point. We're not trying to make everyone build human ships. We're trying to make everyone's ships better. At the Federation Council Hall, a new building constructed on neutral ground between several member worlds, Ambassador Daehyun stood before the assembled representatives. The hall was smaller than the old Galactic Council chamber, deliberately so. They wanted a space that encouraged conversation, not speeches. We've had a successful 6 months, Daehyun reported. Technology sharing protocols are working. Mutual defense pacts have been tested twice, both times successfully preventing conflicts before they escalated. Trade between member species is up 37%. A Tarsan representative raised a question. What about the Praelons? They've been quiet, but they still command significant military forces. They've been quiet because they're rebuilding their strategy, answered Admiral Sang-hoon, attending the meeting via hologram from Earth. Our intelligence suggests they're focusing on consolidating their remaining allies and developing their own advanced technologies. Should we be concerned? We should be aware. Not afraid. The Praelons aren't our enemies. They're a species that chose a different path. If they develop new technologies through honest research, good for them. Competition drives innovation. Sang-hoon smiled slightly. They're welcome to join the Federation anytime they want. The door is always open. That last statement caused murmurs throughout the chamber. Several representatives looked shocked. Others nodded thoughtfully. You'd accept them as members? Asked a Velkan diplomat. After everything? If they agreed to the same terms as everyone else, absolutely, Daehyun confirmed. We're not building an anti-Praelan alliance. We're building a federation of equals. That invitation is open to all species, including the Praelons. They just have to accept being equals, instead of leaders. The meeting continued for hours, discussing details of trade policy, defense coordination, and research sharing. It was boring, bureaucratic work. It was also building something that had never existed before in galactic history, a true federation where every member had equal voice and equal rights. In the Praelan home system, Council Speaker Vixthar watched reports from across the galaxy. His crystalline body no longer glowed with confidence. Instead, it pulsed with uncertainty. They're succeeding, his aide reported unnecessarily. The Federation grows stronger every month. Their combined economic output now exceeds ours. Their military, though scattered across many species, has technological advantages we cannot match. All because of humanity, Vixthar said bitterly. We tried to contain them, and instead, we freed them to revolutionize everything. What do we do? Vixthar was quiet for a long time. We have two choices. We can fight, try to tear down what they've built, prove that our way is superior through force. Or we can learn from them. They showed us that different approaches can succeed. Perhaps we've been the ones who were too predictable. Perhaps we've been the ones afraid of change. His aide's crystalline body flickered with shock. Are you suggesting we join them? Not yet, not while the wound is fresh. But, eventually? Perhaps. If we cannot beat their ideas, maybe their ideas are better than ours. Back on the Soul's Defiance, the combined patrol encountered a distress signal. A civilian transport, not affiliated with any Federation species, had suffered engine failure near a dangerous asteroid field. Should we respond? Asked the Velkan captain of Peaceful Resolution. They're not part of the Federation. Should we respond? They're not part of the Federation. Yunseo didn't hesitate. Of course we respond. That's what the Federation does. We help people who need help. Regardless of politics, the 4 ships moved to assist. The Threxian cruiser used its powerful tractor beams to stabilize the disabled transport. The Velkan ship provided emergency power transfer. The human ships cleared debris and maintained a safe perimeter. The stranded civilian crew watched in amazement as 4 different species worked together seamlessly to save them. Who are you? The transport captain asked over the communications channel. Federation Patrol, Yunseo replied. We're here to help. No payment necessary, no strings attached. Just neighbors helping neighbors. The rescue took 3 hours. When it was complete, the transport captain sent a message to all 4 ships. I've heard stories about the Federation. Wasn't sure whether to believe them. Thought it might be propaganda. But this is real. You're really working together. Things for watching. The where, the where lever. We're really working together. Yunseo confirmed. How do we join? Yunseo smiled. I'll send you the contact information. Talk to your government. If they're interested, the Federation Council will be happy to discuss it. That was how the Federation grew. Not through conquest or pressure, but through example. Species saw what was possible when cooperation replaced control. When different approaches were celebrated instead of suppressed. When unpredictability meant innovation instead of chaos. A year after the Nexus Prime Summit, Mi-sun stood in her laboratory on Luna, looking at a holographic display that showed the entire Federation. 47 member species now. Dozens more. Interested. Technology sharing programs that had created hybrid designs better than anything one species could have built alone. Her old mentor Jae-hyun visited, now semi-retired but still consulting on difficult problems. Proud of what you've built? He asked. We've built, Mi-sun corrected. This isn't just humanity anymore. It's all of us. Do you think it will last? I don't know. Nothing lasts forever. But I think we've shown something important. She gestured at the display. All these different species, different technologies, different ways of thinking. For centuries, the galaxy tried to make everyone the same. Predictable. Controlled. Safe. And now we've shown that different isn't dangerous. Different is powerful. Unpredictability isn't chaos. It's creativity. And the most predictable thing about intelligent species is that we're all unpredictable in our own unique ways. Mi-sun smiled. We just have to embrace it instead of fear it. On Earth, in Geneva, Ambassador Dae-hyun gave a speech to mark the first anniversary of the Federation. The speech was broadcast across all member worlds, translated into dozens of languages by dozens of different translation methods. 1 year ago, the galaxy declared humanity too unpredictable. They thought they were putting us in our place, making us smaller, more manageable, more like everyone else. They were trying to help us, in their way. They genuinely believed that conformity meant stability, that predictability meant peace. He paused, looking directly into the cameras that would carry his words across light years of space. They were wrong. Not because conformity is bad, but because they confused conformity with cooperation. They confused predictability with stagnation. They confused control with leadership. So, Earth smiled. We upgraded our ships, but more importantly, we upgraded our thinking. We stopped asking how to be less human. We started asking how to be more effectively human. And then we invited everyone who wanted to join us in being more effectively themselves. Today, the Federation includes species that were ancient when humanity first looked at the stars. It includes species that met us as enemies and became friends. It includes species so different from us that we had to invent new languages just to communicate, and it works. Not perfectly, not without problems, but it works because we've all agreed on one simple principle. Different is not dangerous, different is divine. Different is how the universe creates new solutions to old problems. And the most unpredictable thing in the universe is what happens when different minds, different species, different approaches come together with respect and freedom. The galaxy declared us too unpredictable. Earth smiled and upgraded its ships. And now, together, we're upgrading the galaxy itself. The speech ended to applause from dozens of worlds. Not everyone agreed. The Praelons and their remaining allies criticized it as naive idealism. Some Federation members had private doubts about whether such diversity could remain united. But on the Soul's defiance, now leading a patrol of 8 ships from 6 different species, Captain Yun Seo knew the truth. She saw it every day in how her crew worked with alien crews, how human technology merged with alien innovations, how problems that seemed impossible were solved by beings who thought differently enough to see solutions no one else could imagine. "Captain," said Navigator Bo-Ra, "we're receiving a distress call from the frontier. Unidentified raiders attacking a colony. It's outside Federation space. Set course." Yun Seo ordered immediately. "Maximum speed. Contact the rest of the patrol. Tell them we're responding to an emergency and request their assistance." "All ships confirm," Bo-Ra reported moments later. "Threxian, Velkan, Quellan, Tarson, and both human vessels. Everyone's coming." "Good," Yun Seo smiled. "Let's show that frontier what the Federation means. Let's show them what's possible when unpredictable species work together predictably." The Soul's defiance moved with impossible grace, leading a fleet of diverse ships toward the unknown. Behind them, scattered across dozens of systems, the Federation continued its work. Building, growing, learning, changing. The galaxy had wanted predictability. Earth had given them something better. Earth had given them purpose, cooperation, and hope. And that, more than any advanced engine or revolutionary technology, was humanity's real gift to the stars. The courage to be different, the wisdom to celebrate difference, and the strength that came from unity without uniformity. The Soul's defiance and its diverse fleet jumped to faster than light speed, racing toward whoever needed help. Behind them, the galaxy continued to spin, now dancing to a new rhythm, a rhythm of change, growth, and endless possibility. A rhythm that was perfectly, beautifully, wonderfully unpredictable.